Say hello to oyster bunnies.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. John, I was just testing you to see if you were awake already. You know, that's why I did.
I'm awake. Of course I'm awake on a Monday morning, Brad.
That's why I did the false intro there. Okay. This is the BJ Show. Brad and John. He is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. I am Brad Hildebrand. Together, we make the Brad and John Show every morning, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, unlike school teachers, the one who do 4 days a week, or Howard Stern, who does 1 day a week now, I think. We get together every day, Monday through Friday, and we start off with John Combest Top 3. Now, where does that come from? John puts together this website. He's done it for 22-plus years, johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. He lists dozens of things every single day that's going on around the state, links to interesting sites, links to Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, YouTube videos, newspaper articles, TV station stuff. But we are ultra special because he gives us the top 3 every morning. Am I correct on that, John?
That's absolutely right. And you know what? On Mondays, we can pick some stuff from over the weekend, too. Not just news from Monday, but news that normal people might have missed over the weekend.
Man, there's a bunch of stuff to talk about, too. Let's get on with it.
We're on our way to the number one in third place.
He's from last Friday, Brad, that we did not get a chance to discuss on Friday's show. Brad, you were there at the official kickoff of the Missouri Freedom Caucus. Do you remember that?
I was. It was down on Main Street in St. Charles.
And you got a chance to chop it up with our friend Jason Rosenbaum. You got a chance to see some speechifying by some candidates. Interesting development from the Freedom Caucus. Last week, a charter member of the Freedom Caucus, a woman named Jill Carter, who's a state senator from the southwest part of the state, Brad, she became the first member of the Freedom Caucus to leave the Freedom Caucus.
Now, why is that, John?
Well, according to lore, now so for starters, she put out a statement on social media that said that over a period of time, she saw that the values that she felt and the idea of personal relationships, she was choosing her words very carefully, obviously, that they weren't shared by all members of the Freedom Caucus. Now, if you're looking for analysis of this, Brad, which I think most of us are, Scott Fawn last week in one of his newsletters. By the way, my Scott Fawn tally for the week is 1. I'm outpacing you with Tracy Ellis this week. So my Scott Fawn tally is 1. But Scott put in his newsletter that at some point when this big education omnibus bill was being debated, Jill Carter had some ideas of putting some guardrails around how far DESE could interfere with, I believe, homeschooling or maybe charter schools. I don't think Scott made it clear exactly what it was. But she called for a roll call vote, and this is procedural. But essentially the only person to stand with her was another state senator from down in that part of the state, a guy named Mike Moon. And from what Scott wrote, Jill Carter was disappointed in that. And more than likely that was just kind of the final straw for Senator Carter. So for her part, she says that she's obviously still going to vote for conservative policy. She's still going to be a fighter for conservatives. And she's just going to do it no longer from inside the Freedom Caucus. For their part, the Freedom Caucus had something to say. Bill Eigel came out and said, Brad, that he will be praying for Jill Carter.
You know, there's a couple things to say. First off, I was there at that event. Not that I was there to support it. I was covering it as a journalist. Every once in a while, my stupid double degrees, my bachelor's, my master's kicks in, and I have to use my journalistic credentials. And Dr. Camille Winter, if you're looking down on me, you know what? I do still try to use the values you instilled in me. But anyway, I was there, and a guy by the name of Bob Onder gave a very stirring speech at the time who was running for lieutenant governor. And after he's done with his speech, I yelled out to the crowd, CD3! And look
you sure did.
Look what that did. He's now the congressional, or the...
And he could be the next congressman from there.
Right, the congressman for CD3, although he doesn't live in CD3, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, John, I have gazillion questions to talk to you about this. And first off, let's move through the top three, and then we'll get back to this. But
sure.
Let me just ask you one question. Is this Friday the last day of the session, or is it a week from this Friday?
No, it's a week from this Friday. However, Brad, you'll hear a lot about this Friday because that's the legislature is constitutionally required to pass a budget by, I believe, it's 6 p.m. on Friday.
So this Friday, 6 o'clock, they have to have a budget.
Correct. And then the session ends the following Friday.
Okay. Let's just move on, and I'll come back to that. Okay, you ready?
Up a notch to number 2.
Brad, you can finally get your blackjack on. You can finally get your poker on. You can finally get your craps table on. If supporters of a casino have their way, it looks like supporters of a casino in Osage County, Missouri, near the Lake of the Ozarks, would be able to put in a casino. They submitted signatures. It looks like they'll probably have enough signatures. And Missourians in November will be able to vote on if they want a casino. Now, the exact location of the casino, this is according to the Post-Dispatch coverage today, would be on the portion of the Osage River below the Bagnell Dam on the south side of 54. So I said Osage County. What I meant to say is on the Osage River. But you know the really interesting thing about this, Brad? Do you know who opposes this casino? Besides probably Brad Hildebrand.
Tracy Ellis?
Now we're 1-1. No, a bunch of Indians. A bunch of Indians want to put in their own casino, Brad. The Osage, their official name is the Osage Nation. And they want to operate a, quote, tribal gambling palace. It's not just a casino.
Did you say
it's a gambling palace, Brad? And they are not happy about this. They want to stop this, let's call it Paleface Casino, which is, we should note too, largely funded by, or almost exclusively funded by a company called RIS Incorporated. They own a bunch of land down there. And also Bally's, the national corporation Bally's has dumped in a lot of money to operate this casino. So who's going to win, Brad? We don't know. Will it be the Indians? And this, to be clear, we're talking about feather Indians, not dot Indians, two beautiful cultures. So we'll see who wins this year. Will it be the pale faces or will it be the Indians?
Did you say Bible? Did you say there? It's the what is the term you used? That what?
A tribal gambling palace.
I go Bible.
Yeah,
gambling
not to be confused
palace.
with a Bible gambling. That's entirely different. That's where you carve out a little section of the Bible and you put your dice in there, Brad, and then you just shoot craps in the back of the church.
Okay, now a couple questions here. First off, and I've heard about this, but I didn't know exactly where it's going to go. They're going to go below the dam, is what they want to do?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, here's the thing. You want to go below the dam because that's where most of the smallmouth are. You know what I'm saying, Brad? Like if you're using some top water in the morning, the sun's coming up, you want to be below the dam because they're looking for shad in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And that's not shad like the big tough guy from college. It's SHAD. Okay. Yes, to answer your question in a non-silly way, they would be below the dam.
I don't know if I'd want to go to a casino. You see all these news stories from around the country and even around the world, these dams that rupture and take out everything below them. I don't think I'd want to be in a casino that's below the dam. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't. And see, I'm not a Lake of the Ozarks guy. Is there much development south of the dam? Is there much development down on the Ozarks?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea.
You're not
I don't spend a lot of time at Lake of the Ozarks.
You're not a LOZ guy, or man.
Yeah, ever since good old Tantera was turned into Margaritaville, I haven't been around those parts. Well, but I have nothing against it. It's just I know some folks that have property there, and some of them are listing right now. And I haven't gotten invited this summer. And I'm kind of peeved about it, but that's an insider tip for some old Spanish Lake friends that have some property down there.
Well, so you got invited, but of course you wouldn't go anyway. But you were just upset that they wouldn't invite you. Right?
That's exactly it, Brad. You know how that works.
I know exactly how that works. See, I have never been a Lake of the Ozark guy. I know people that to them it's like religion. Oh, the lake. And
for sure.
What's interesting about it is, I don't know about you, but I've run into several people in the last year or so that, from out of state, people I've dealt with on the phone and things like that. People I've met in person. Hey, I watched that TV show, The Ozarks, and or what was it? Was that what the name of it?
Yeah, Ozark.
Ozark. And I go, first off, that wasn't at the Lake of the Ozark. And they go, what? I go, wasn't it someplace in Georgia where they shot that?
Yeah, they filmed. They got tax credits to shoot down in, I think it was Georgia.
Right. They came into town. They came into the Ozark region and shot a bunch of B-roll, like before they even put the show on the air. And then they just took all that B-roll back, and then they shot that. And occasionally there's an establishing shot. And I'm going like, okay, first off, and second off, I don't know. I just don't get it. Lake life just means nothing to me. Now, once again, for those who enjoy it, I'm not saying, hey, you're a bunch of dummies, to each their own. But I sometimes through my essentially through my adulthood, when people would say, well, you don't go to the Lake of the Ozarks? I go, no, I don't. And they go, why not? I go, do you put your hand in a meat slicer? And they go, well, no. I go, why not? It's like,
now, see, here's what I would like. If I had property there, if I could be lakeside, I would love to have a boat. And I would love to go down there on occasion, like take the kids or whatever, and go fishing. Like, I would enjoy that. But the idea of what you referenced of lake life, of going out in your boat and just kind of cruising around and then going to, some restaurant and eat, like, that doesn't have much. I could do that for a weekend, and I've done it for a weekend, and it's fine. But, like, I would love the fishing aspect of it, or, you have the kids fish off the dock one night. Like, but other than that, like, like the idea of lake life doesn't really do it for me.
It's interesting. I'm not a fisherman, never have been. My oldest son is like Joe Fisherman. Matter of fact, he's the one that lives in Pensacola, literally has a little branch, I don't know what you call it, I guess like a little creek or something like that goes, you can go in his backyard, walk on his little deck, get in his boat, and you can just keep driving on his boat and ultimately end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And you go through like a bay and stuff like that. But he is like Mr. Fisherman. And, I guess it's one of those things there that, things that my parents do. Like, for example, my parents always bought Buicks. If you gave me a new Buick right now, I'd put it on Craigslist or on Marketplace, or I'd go to one of the car dealerships and say, hey, it's brand new. It's only got 20 miles on it. I drove it from one dealership to here. Can I trade it in on an F-150? And see what they'd say. Okay, let's move on. Last but not least.
The number one.
The top story over the weekend, Brad, that you will amazingly see zero, and I mean 0.0 media coverage is Missouri Republicans gathered in Springfield, Missouri for the state convention. Did you see any coverage of this, Brad?
I did not, and I have a serious question to ask you as soon as we're done with this.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty big deal. It happens every 4 years, the Missouri Republican State Convention. And I got to get this off my chest before we start, Brad. Sometimes on the show, we can hear you literally pounding the table, Brad. I am going to pound the table here and talk about the fact that the state convention, I don't care if it's a Democrat convention or a Republican convention or a Libertarian convention or a Green Party, the media, if it's in your city, how you can justify not sending a reporter to cover a state convention is beyond me. Now, Brad, you'll appreciate this. You started the show by talking about the fact that we're here 5 days a week, and, teachers only want to work 4 days a week. Brad, I'm convinced that the reason that the Springfield News Leader or the Springfield Daily Citizen or KY3 or any outlet down there didn't send a reporter is because the convention was on a Saturday. And how dare you expect a political reporter to cover a political story on a Saturday? That's my rant, Brad. Go ahead.
Which is interesting. You talked about this. You had, a couple weeks ago, you gave a job. There was
the Kansas City Star.
Yeah, the Kansas City Star that said you might have to work some nights and weekends, and it was for reporters like oh my God, you mean things happen on the weekend besides me going and chilling with my friends? I mean, you might have to work in the weekend. I don't.
Just incredible. And, look, we're going to sound like old guys here. But if you take a real reporter like a Jason Rosenbaum in the modern era, or you take a Joe Manis from the Post-Dispatch, and you said to them, can you believe that there's a state convention coming to your city, but you don't have to cover it because it's on a Saturday? So you know what? On Monday, just send a couple emails or go to Twitter and pull some statements. And I don't know, it's good enough journalism. Okay, I'm done pounding the table on that, Brad. So let's talk a little bit about what happened.
No, but
go ahead, Brad.
Oh, but let me just say one last thing on this. Okay,
Yeah.
In my constant drumbeat of me complaining about KWMU, of all the radio stations in St. Louis, commercial and non-commercial, they have the largest news department. Okay. And talk about on weekends, they have absolutely, positively no local news on the weekend. It's like things just don't exist. There's nobody who comes on and gives you any kind of stuff. It's all network shows on the weekend. And I'm going like, okay. I mean, don't these people, don't get me going on this.
Well, what's going to help, Brad? They have the St. Louis Public Radio Guild.
Yeah, I know.
Unionizing will help that, though, Brad. Don't you think?
Oh no, there won't be any news on Friday. There won't be any.
I gotta get you going on a Monday morning. Let's get into what happened.
Hold. There won't be any news on Friday because of the fact that they're on to go through a 4-day weekend. Okay, now before I go any further on this, I have to ask you about this because what were you going to talk about? Am I one-upping you on something?
No. I can do it in 30 seconds, and then we can talk about what you want to say. A woman named Sophie Shore was elected the chair of the state convention. And Brad, since there's no media coverage, I'll just read you a tweet from Bill Eigel. He has a scene from a war movie, and he says what it looked like after 5 hours of delay at the state convention yesterday when the empire, or the GOP establishment, realized they could not whip enough votes to get their candidate elected as chair. The rebellion broke through. Let's go, Missouri. So Bill Eigel's campaign manager, who's Sophie Shore, was elected chair. And I don't have the vote count in front of me right now, Brad, because, no media covered the event. But as I understand it, by more than 100 votes, and I believe there were at least 800 people there. I might get those numbers wrong. But by a significant margin, Bill Eigel's campaign manager, Sophie Shore, was elected over a really well-respected veteran of Republican politics, a guy named Eddie Justice from the southeast part of the state. So this appears to be, Brad, the quote-unquote grassroots, or at least one quote-unquote grassroots group, defeating another group of people and having what that actually means, Brad, is that the state convention is for selecting delegates to the Republican National Convention. And each team essentially gets to pick their own slate of candidates. So, good Lord willing, someone responsible, like say, I don't know, Jason Rosenbaum, will write a piece about what this means. Was this really a grassroots defeat of the Missouri Republican establishment? Yes, no. What do both sides of it say? And what are the real implications going forward?
Okay, here's my question. John is a graduate of Washington University. Only smart people go there.
Oh, brilliant people.
I am a graduate of SIU Edwardsville, which to some would say, Florissant Valley is 270 Tech South, and SIU Edwardsville is 270 Tech North. Okay, John puts up this video over the weekend, and it's gotten to be our most popular video on our channel. By the way, our channel is now bjshow.video. How about that? bjshow.video.
Oh, that's awesome.
You go directly. And I'm watching this video. I watch it 3 or 4 times, and I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea what this video is about. Can you explain it to me, John?
Yeah. So it's a clip from our show.
Right. But I don't understand what the video is. I'm going like, okay, it's to the point where like, if I'm watching like mind-numbing videos of guys doing triple backflips on their motorcycles, oh wow, the guy made it, oh the guy crashed, I get it. I don't understand what the video's about. It's some guy and it's you and me talking and it's some woman and I'm going like, I have no idea what's going on in this video.
Yeah. So we talked about it on, I think in the caption we talk about that we discussed it on the show November 30th. And Sophie Shore, you might recall this, Brad, there was a whole controversy at the St. Charles County Council chambers when there was Bill Eigel was there, and Bill Eigel had made some comments, and there were pro-Palestinian protesters there. And those protesters spotted Sophie Shore and then came up to her and started giving her a hard time. Does this ring a bell to you?
Okay, but the video, it was a guy. It keeps showing a guy. Who's that guy? The video you put up,
Sophie,
it's a
Sophie
dude.
took a video of that guy that was calling Sophie a Gentile.
Okay, so that is the guy, but you said he's a woman or something like that?
No.
Well, you said, and he's a man dressed as a woman. I'm going, okay, I'm totally lost.
Oh, I said a guy a male that presents, or a gentleman, a human that presents as male. It might be worth, Brad, and one of the reasons why I made reference to the original show, it might be worth going back and listening to that. But what's interesting is this man who is, looks to be some sort of a theater major from St. Louis City, came out to St. Charles County along with at least another Palestinian protester, and were giving Sophie a hard time. So the point of the video is that's Sophie's video from Sophie's point of view.
Right.
And that's why there's a big caption at the bottom that says via Sophia L. Shore on Twitter.
Okay,
she had posted that.
It's a white dude, looks like he's maybe 35 or 40, correct?
Yeah, something like that.
And it's a black lady, looks like she's maybe late 20s, early 30s, right?
Yeah.
Are those the Palestinian protesters? Is that who they were?
They are, yeah.
Okay, and the person shooting the video is Sophie?
Yeah, that's correct.
And they're calling her a Gentile.
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah, we talked about it on I think it was episode number 6 of our show, Brad.
John, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. I mean, you expect me to remember.
Now, I'll tell you the funniest thing about that video, Brad, real quick. I know we're up against break. I sent you that video because I had created our original YouTube channel.
Right.
And then a couple months later, you created the second one, which is the one we're using now.
Right.
But that was one of our first videos on our original YouTube channel. I sent you that video back in November.
I see you remember that, and it popped up. And the crazy part of it is you moved it over to the bjshow.video channel, which is our YouTube channel, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's the #1 video on the entire channel, and it eclipses John Combest comfy shoes and Mary Elizabeth Coleman and probably the classic Bill Eigel video, which have gotten gazillion, and of course, it even eclipsed the Scott Fawn video. And I'm going,
and this is a good time, Brad, when we talk about things like this, to point out that there's a number of people who yesterday on Twitter shared the video. I had a link to this yesterday, Brad, up on my website, and then I tweeted it. And then a number of people shared it. So thanks to everyone who shares our videos and who shares our content, and we always appreciate it.
Well, John, it just to the point where I'll be honest with you, it didn't make any sense to me. Now it makes it makes sense to me because I'm going like I don't remember that, because I hear you and me talking, and then as there's like a quick shot of Bill Eigel, and there's this white dude, and there's a black lady, and I'm going like I don't really know what's going on. I
do think a lot of people understand that though, Brad, and I think that on Twitter I mentioned that Sophie got elected chair.
Yes.
And then here's a video of her putting a couple protesters in their place.
Once again, John, you are talking to a guy who's working very hard and getting his IQ into triple digits. I mean, I am really working hard on this triple digit thing for my IQ thing. It's one of my goals for the year this year that I want to get.
Wow, it's on your TIMD list. Things I must do every day.
John's going to make fun of me. Okay.
I'm not making fun of you at all, Brad.
Here we go.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?